All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Stiletto Talks Podcast, where we continue to create collaborative safe spaces for women of color. Oh, wow. You all are in for a treat. You all don't have no idea what we went through to get this recorded. Whew. Anyway, when I tell you we are really every woman, and we certainly have someone on tonight that is truly every woman, from shaping advocacy in all ways for all those who maybe are often overlooked, unseen, not thought about in different conversations, whether it's education, advocacy, or otherwise. I am so excited about this particular interview tonight.
I'm
We've
smiling.
had yes, yes. I know y'all see her with the cute smile. So anyway, if you're listening, I'm sure you hear it too. You can hear the energy that's about to come through. So Shawnte and I are in another organization, and we've been together, of course, traveling this advocacy road for some time. But even though we both are in the advocacy space, it's a lot of room in advocacy, particularly in communities of color. There are so many cross sections that you can dice up. And Shawnte is just a champion of people. She is able to truly bridge very sometimes not necessarily difficult conversations, but sometimes conversations you're not thinking about, and putting those people in the same room. And the way she can command the room is something definitely to be studied. And therefore, we are studying tonight. So, class is in session. Class is in session. So, she is a governing school board member for a local county here in Arizona. She is an advocate of all things LGBTQ. She is an advocate for women of color. She is an advocate for communities of color, and more importantly, just marginalized communities. She's out here doing this fight. She's a mama, she's a grandmother, she's all the things. And so, as we say, as Shaka Khan said it best, every woman, you have every woman here definitely tonight on this interview. And so, without further ado, I would love to introduce my sissy, Shawnte Rothschild. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Stiletto
Thank
Talks. I'm so
you.
excited.
Thank you. Me as well. I am super excited. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh my goodness. So before we get into, of course, a lot of other questions, let's talk about your story. I want to know more about the origin of your story, the origin of what got you to the point. I know it's probably long because we've been around a minute. We got some
Yes.
rotations around the sun. So we're going to talk about it from the point of educational leadership. Share with us the origin of your story as it relates to the point where it led you into educational leadership.
So my story started in a very safe two-parent, married, brother, just family home, very religious, very tight-knit home. And I decided, in school, there was a cute boy. And with that cute boy after prom night at 17, I became a mother. I was pregnant. And so it went from having that very comfortable, very organized, very laid out life to struggle and growth, and just really being able to fall back on my foundation, the love, the support from my family, really falling back also on my education, the hard work, the determination, seeing the difference for people who had an education, whether it was formal or informal, and the doors that it either opened, or for others, the doors that weren't open. And seeing that difference, I knew that while I was struggling, I knew that other people were struggling more. And so at that point, it was let me help others. Because life is short. I know how blessed I am to have had and still have a loving and supporting network. And I wanted to make sure that those who didn't have that same thing knew that there were people that cared. Because at the end of the day, sometimes it's seeing that person walk down the street that smiles, or that person that holds the door open for us, that keeps us going. So I wanted to be that for others, because I know what a difference it had made for me.
So that's a place, a lot of that is a place that we can relate. Mine certainly wasn't it wasn't prom night, but I certainly already had my daughter before prom. So one thing that you talked about is the struggle. And I think that struggle we learn in one positive, if you could say a positive, is you learn how to advocate for yourself really, really young, because people tend to think, oh, you're a young mom, can you take care of that child? And so we are constantly advocating early on, not only for our children, but also for ourselves, that you need to see me as a viable parent. I am advocating for my child, whether it's a doctor's appointment, whether it is a kindergarten, making sure they have their needs met in school, needs met for work. Like, I need to take off to be with my child. My child is sick. You're constantly learning how to speak up and develop your voice, probably without even realizing it. You mentioned something earlier while we were kind of getting ourselves together, about just things happening organically. And I think over time, it just organically happens where this voice just develops. And once that voice develops, now it's time to put it in action, not only for yourself, but you notice my voice got a little power. This can work for someone
Yes.
else. It's not just about
Yes.
working for me. So in your current roles, because you are in so many roles regarding advocacy, and this interview rather, is happening after one of the most historic weeks we've seen in a long time. And it is definitely going to impact um, communities in the South for generations to come if this continues. Should it continue? And it looks like we're going to be in this space for a minute. It certainly feels very historical. And we're just still trying to kind of get out words, just even see what you want to say about it, because it's just really a heavy moment at the time of this recording. Um, when I think about this, though, and I think about education, some of the spaces that you're in, for example, what are some key moments in time, even like this, because I'm sure this makes you more strengthened in advocacy? What are some other key moments, including this one, that make you think about, you know what, advocacy is for me? Because what we talked about earlier is your yes in advocacy means no or no to something else, as stated. So when you gave your yes, what are some key moments that have shaped your advocacy?
I will just say one thing, and I remembered this because of one of my friends who had served in the military mentioned 9/11 and the impact on their life. I remember where I was at 9/11. I remember one child was at school and another child was in the playpen. And I remember just seeing things on TV and people running around frantic, and that mother part of me hit. I wasn't thinking about me, I was thinking about them. And in that mindset, you're running around, right, trying to again find that voice for them. Where I personally would have been scared and maybe some other things, we go into action for others. So thinking about things like 9/11, I had a friend that I grew up with that was an immigrant, and they were LGBTQ. And when their parents found out, they became physically violent. They threw them out on the street. They had to struggle and find a new community. And again, in that moment, one, I had never experienced anything like that. I had never experienced having love taken away from me, having rights taken away from me, having my identity taken away from me, and instantly having to find a new family, a new safe space. While he couldn't do it, I again stepped up and I found that power for him, and helped navigate that. Another instance in my life, I have a parent that is on the spectrum, and at a very early age, I saw how adults would dismiss them, how they would not be able to participate in opportunities because others did not take the opportunity to see what they needed in order to gain a basic understanding. And so that was another real standout core memory for me of being able to advocate not only for myself, but for others, pulling my emotions together, digging deep, right, and finding that strength, to not only move forward and learn and be that voice for someone else, but also that internal voice for yourself. I don't know about you, but for me, fear is a commonplace. As a woman, there's that fear when you go out at night. As a woman of color, there's that fear of going into certain situations, the fear of speaking up and being ostracized. And so that fear and all of those instances that I shared is really what moved me to kind of press forward, because one, after fear, right, comes hopefully that it's a catalyst for action and for change. And so for me, for 9/11 and the fear of what could happen to my children, for my friend who was immediately without a family in a country that is not necessarily nice to immigrants, for that parent that really was missing out on the basic things in life because society didn't see them as a person, I had to move forward. And so those are the things I think in life that will always make me rise to the occasion. Our current environment of where DEI doesn't exist, to where we can just dismiss the fact of the experiences that we individually have had that have made us individuals worthy of being in spaces, and having someone tell us, you don't matter anymore. We were barely dealing with you and now you don't count. It's just not acceptable. And so, as my grandma says, long story short, my answer would be fighting through the fear. That is literally what keeps me going. And all of those no's in society made me say, no, I'm not going to accept that. Yes to me, yes to the person, yes to opportunity, and yes to being someone that deserves to be here. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. You know, we get a little emotional and all psyched up and sometimes forget
You
where
was
we are.
clocking it. You was clocking it,
So
as my students say. You came through. Even my dog started barking. I think you were clocking it. And what I can say is I can so understand everything that you're saying. My daughter, of course, is hearing impaired. My daughter also is developmentally disabled. And so I remember people just constantly trying to marginalize not only my child, but trying to marginalize me. Oh, she can't go swimming. Yes, she can. Being hearing impaired does not stop you from learning how to swim. Doesn't stop you from learning how to roller skate. Yes, she can go to Girl Scouts just like anybody else. I will be there. And it's this space of inclusion. And like you said, DEI was about so much more than a racial thing, especially being a Black woman, just being a gender that I have the right to be in the room and take up space. If we all say we believe in a higher power, or we believe in just treating people right in a golden rule, if nothing else, is it necessarily following that golden rule when you keep bending it towards one over the other? And so that's just a whole nother cup of tea that we probably don't have time to pour and sip. And so for me, I had to learn early on that advocacy was a gateway, was a pathway, and it has been successful. Not saying it has been easy, because it has not. Uh, Transparently, it's just a lot of arguing, a lot of loud voices, a lot of health. It's impactful on your health. But when I can say that I know that I can live and die knowing that I did what I was supposed to do, in certain moments, I can absolutely say that in advocacy. And as the kids say, I don't get tired. When it comes to speaking up, I might sit there for a minute. It's not going to be long though. I'm going to let you know this is unacceptable. And I love the word that you said, unacceptable. You cannot and you will not, because what I've been through in my lifetime and so many others, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that.
you don't know
And
my
so,
story, you don't know where I've been, and you don't know where I'm going.
and I'm not going to be able to do it. I thought about it and I looked into it, and I'm not going to be able to do it.
About that, I'm gonna write that one down. I thought about and looked into it. That's
And
both.
I'm
I
not
thought
going to be
about
able to
and
do
looked.
it. I'm not going to be able to do it.
I love
I
it.
think that that's the best way. And as I tell my students all the time, I'm unable to acquiesce your request. Now that probably confuses folks, but it lets them know that there's a no for me. That there is a strong no for me. So one of the things that you talked about is of course advocacy for those that may not be considered that they can speak for themselves. Trying to shut someone down. We know racial bias, gender bias, orientation bias, all these biases we can't even keep up at this point. Just bias.
Ability bias, age, all of that. Yes.
It's just bias. Like the bias is now all of a sudden the trend right now. It's the trend of the day. And it looks like it wants to go a little bit further and take a root. And I think that is what is kind of concerning many, is that now it has a breath, it has voice, and there is cause for concern when it comes to that particular space. So when we think about that, what you deal a lot, of course, with the community and with families and trying to get them to understand, because even in this moment with all that is going on at the time of this recording, people still may not understand the WIFM. What's in it for me? Why should I be concerned? And this is why we must have advocacy. Advocacy is clearly not dead. The fact that you don't understand is why we're still out here in these streets. And so to that, what current priorities or initiatives do you feel like, especially when it comes to our children, the next generation, they're seeing a lot. They're seeing a lot of these biases play out among adults, and adults who should have outgrown some of this, because you've been in the world and clearly know that some of your biases are clearly unfounded, right? They're not necessarily a reason why you should even think this way, but you have certainly put yourself in these particular spaces to do so. And we know sometimes this impacts bullying and all these things. And especially with parents, sometimes they think, well, oh, I just moved my child, I moved to school. And then they get there and then they have something else. You move somewhere else, you move your home, you
You
got
can't
something
run
else
from
going
it.
on. And so of course, teaching parents maybe just something as simple as a lesson of sometimes you got to stand and fight. So, what are some current initiatives or policies that you feel like you want families to understand? Some initiatives that they may need to know about in this current day and time, whether it's here in our area where we are, or even just abroad. We're everywhere. So, we even a little international now. So, we just did a show from Africa. So,
Wow.
we a little international.
Look at
So,
that.
of course, just thinking about for us, especially communities of color, we already have so many cross sections. Our diaspora is wide.
Yes.
What is it that you feel like, especially when it comes to, like I said, policies? Because policies are what really impact us. Like this new policy, this law, this is what's going to, this new letter is going to
Yes.
impact us. Not just one state, but many states, especially those in the South. Or initiatives that you want families to understand. And why do you think that's so important in this day and time that they need to understand that?
So one, we talked about education, the great equalizer. So what I would encourage everyone to do is to understand the importance of education. Again, whether it's formalized or informal. I personally believe in higher formal education. So whether that's a trade school, whether that's a university, whether it's gaining another skill set, we as a country, we as a people become greater when we understand, when we grow. And without education, we can't do that. We are literally at the mercy of someone else telling us what is best for us. And we know as individuals, with all of our intersectionalities, with all of the differences and the beauty that makes us us, for someone to tell us how we best thrive, how we best function, makes no sense. And so the education and education, a continuous education, is what gives us that. And so with that, I would encourage everyone, not encourage, I actually require people that I have a regular conversation with to be involved in the educational system. Whether you have children, whether you don't have children, know what's going on, not only in your community, not only in your state, but within your country and beyond. With education, that defines everything, right? Our ability to eat, our ability to grow food, our ability to communicate with each other, our ability to have a conversation where we disagree. With no education, right, we don't have the words, we don't have the skill sets, we don't understand the reason why people think the way they do. We're at a loss. And so I would encourage all individuals to attend school board meetings, pay attention to the policies that are being passed as it relates to schools. Many people don't realize with school, we're creating also our future workforce. So yes, the kindergartners, they're so cute learning their letters and learning to read, but we fast forward to the workplace where if we did not have some type of formalized education, the ability to have conversations with people doesn't exist, or it is rare. The ability to be able to think through things, the ability to analyze, the ability to have a conversation with someone that we don't necessarily agree with, the ability to take what we thought and take in more information and then have another thought or idea or view things differently. So education, at the end of the day, it is the thing that if I couldn't give my children, if I didn't have anything else besides love and attention, I would make sure that they had an education. Being involved, making sure that there are guidelines as it relates to what is being taught, the qualifications of our educators, supporting our teachers. Our teachers cannot do it alone. I will say, as a parent of a teacher, of someone who wanted to be a teacher but couldn't afford to feed my family, and doing that, we need as a society to be more engaged in supporting our teachers, our superintendents, the system itself. I could go on and on about that, but it takes money. So again, going back to being educated enough to know what type of funding is occurring with our schools, making sure that the leaders, the people making the decisions about what goes on in our education system, the state superintendent, all of those people, we need to be involved in that. First and foremost, I will always advocate for that because that is what gives us the ability to continue to grow as individuals. Second, I say the word politics so that people know the term that I'm using, but really it is policy, to what you said before. And policy equals how we are able to live our lives, from having street lights on the corner, having potholes in the road, having the right kind of stores in neighborhood, not having certain facilities near our home or our children. All of that has to do with policy. And I hear literally 5 times a day, I don't do politics. Well, you want to live, you want to own a home, you want to be able to have public transportation, you want to be able to have job and opportunities. That is all tied to policy. So the second thing that I would say is, please, either one, get involved, attend a city council meeting, hop online to a school board meeting. And if you don't have the bandwidth or it's simply not of interest to you, find a resource that you can trust that will give you the direction on how to vote, how to use your voice. So again, I said a lot, might not have gathered the fact for those listening that I am adamant about education for all, and politics. Without it, we as a community can't survive.
Well, for me, this is like a amen, a sermon that's been delivered in a benediction. Like I'm living this. And so the first thing you talked about is the education space. It impacts your access to wealth, your ability to live. For someone, when I think about my mother growing up, when I say poor, you can take the O and the R off. We were just poor. She did not have. She was marginalized a lot because she wanted to go back to nursing school, but nurse's aid is what she got in high school at the time. And to be honest, it would have been worse than that if she hadn't gotten that. Right, a single mother, you're raising 3 kids. These things are hard. Um, Fast forward to myself. Um, I started out at Southern University, and then, of course, my daughter, of course, loses her hearing, and I went on to go to beauty school. I was able to do that and then go back to college. And so now, 3 degrees in, soon to be 4, come July
Look
22nd.
at
So
that.
good.
Look
That
at
that
that.
that doctor is en route, folks. Education has truly changed my life, and that's why I'm an advocate. When I retired from behind the chair, I was fussing and educating and teaching then, and so it just transitioned right on into a classroom. And to be honest, it feels so good to see children get it and understand the why, because I tell my story a lot. I want them to hear and understand from someone that may look like them, or a financial situation that they may identify with, or with a social economic class, whatever you want to say. I want them to understand what education can do for them. And that happens when we all get involved and we all tell our story. If we do not give our children the whiffle, our
Yep.
communities, the with them, and we all stay rallied around one another to impact policy. Yes, it changes the way maybe you don't now have a school in your area. That school is gone because you didn't advocate to keep the one you had. Maybe it impacts the type of books that are available, whether or not your school has a library, whether you have access to clean water or quality of life plan for your community. Some people may not even be aware what a quality of life plan is, as in, do you have enough hospitals, urgent care, mental health facilities? Do you have a domestic violence hotline? We're dealing with an issue here that we have one that's gone,
Yes.
and so that is going to impact communities when we know that hotlines save lives. So when we don't speak up, somebody speaks for you.
Hmm.
And if you don't want someone to take your voice or to take your spot or to take your seat or to take your place, then you need to speak and let people know that you're standing in the room. Because if you don't think they're there, you just go stand in that line. You just move up because you're like, oh, nobody's standing here. But if you acknowledge them, if they don't know they're stepping on your foot, if you don't say ouch, when they step on your foot, you need to say ouch. So you can acknowledge, like, hey, this is not comfortable to me. So I love the fact that you're saying for us to get involved, challenging us to get involved in our community, being educated. Just having the access to read changes so much. And I tell anybody being from Louisiana, if you ever look at some of the things that happened with Hurricane Katrina,
Hmm.
and you're putting up these signs, and you know that there was a high number of people that even could not even read all this information. You're reading it to them. You should just told them to go, And so there are just so many things that can impact the quality of life, or even that they may not be aware. My mother sold her house when she was terminally ill and didn't realize she had two mortgages. So I had to help negotiate all of that just to make sure my mama got her money for her home, so she could have and live out the rest of her days the way she wanted to. Having a child that was educated, it mattered. When my brother was ill, making sure he understood you got two life insurance policies, not one. So that way, when he passed away, his family could move on to another, they could buy a house because he could use one policy to live and the other policy so they could live when he was gone. I don't think we understand what education does. So when people say, why politics? We certainly don't want to find out what it means if we don't have it. And we all know that people sacrificed and died. People we have probably never found because of their sacrifice to make sure that we had a better day. So we don't want to go back and see what that looks like. So thank you for sharing your why and being so transparent and open that yes, you get a lot of pushback with that. And so what we hope is that you hear her passion and maybe consider where you're listening at. Maybe just fall into an education meeting. You probably be surprised at what's going on right under your nose. Because keep in mind, when you don't use your voice, they feel like they have permission.
And
So
one thing, oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to add the importance. I tell everyone if someone is trying to take something away from you, don't allow them to. Our voting rights, the things that are going on right now, our ancestors, literally people died. We know was in with women got the right to vote in 1920. In 1920. And when kids hear 19, they think, oh, it's a long time ago. There are rights that we have gained within our lifetime that we have since lost, that we are in jeopardy of losing. Not everything has value. So I encourage people to realize when things are trying to be removed, that is when you need to pay attention. No one is going to spend millions of and billions of dollars to try and get you to do or not do something if there isn't value in it. So I am, for one, if it is my constitutional right, and if it is my right as a human being, I'm going to hold on to it. Even if I'm not going to use it, I am going to hold on to it. And so please understand what these policy changes are as it relates to your voting rights, the additional requirements. everything that is going on, that is being taken away, is going to cost. There is always a cost to things. And sometimes our inaction is still a voice that we're not using. Us not showing up is saying that we don't care. To what you said before, that we don't matter. Specifically, groups, as a woman, as people of color, as whatever it is that you're intersect, wherever you intersect, by that group, that population not showing up, it tells the people that we don't have to address that group. We don't need to worry about them because they're not going to show up. So we're already being discounted by our inactions. Our silence says that we don't care. And if it's enough for us as an individual not to care, think about others. Think about the future. Think about our grandchildren. If none of that matters, I don't know what to say. But, everyone's not going to fight. Everyone's not going to listen. But if a majority of us do, then we'll continue to make a difference. I mean, we here as a country, 250 years ago, we didn't exist. Some people decided to come over here, right, and do some things that were definitely not okay. But 250 years ago, we did not exist as a country. 250 years is not a long time. And so thinking about the efforts, the sacrifices that people have put in to allow us even here today, the technology we're using to have this conversation, the electricity, all of those things came through education, came through politics, came through policy. So if for no other reason than you'd like to watch TV in the comfort of your home and like to have a say, you need to show up. Because if you don't, guess what? Somebody's going to make those decisions for you.
That is so good. And you mentioned the showing up. And so you show up, of course, as an unapologetic Black woman, uh showing up to advocate for folks, for those who may not have a voice, where their voice is not always in the room. Maybe they don't know yet how to use their voice. And often, of course, again, being in this skin and in this gender, as you said, this intersectionality, this can get to be sometimes a little tricky. So what lessons have you learned as this intersectionality as a woman and all those other ways you cross? What have you learned about leadership, or being in leadership and politics, being in that public service, and being a female leader?
One, I have learned that everything comes with a cost. As I said before, whether we act, whether we don't act, there are repercussions to that. And so, one thing that I have learned is no one's going to save us, meaning that yes, there are a group of people that will show up. So, you have to find your circle. But at the end of the day, if we care about something, we have to fight for it. We have to be the one when we're looking to our left or right on who's going to do it. People are looking at us. So one, we have to show up for ourselves because others are watching. And by showing up for ourselves, others are going to show up for us. One. Two, it's okay not to have the answers. There are plenty of days that I wake up that I'm feeling like a failure. There are plenty of things that I didn't get right, plenty of things that I didn't get done that I wanted to do. And it's okay to feel like that. But know that you have to get up and keep moving, and that what you do matters, and that people are watching. And so even if you aren't living up to what you think is the pinnacle of what you should be, know that there are thousands of people that you are positively impacting, that are watching, that are remembering, that those seeds that we drop as we are going and doing this advocacy, that they're actually being sown. And that we are, when we think about our legacy, right, that it matters. There are people that we will have changed permanently for the good, all by just showing up. And so knowing that I matter, that I don't have to be perfect to make a difference, that as long as I get up every day and continue to do the work, sometimes I can give 100, other times I'm giving 50, but knowing that I am making a difference, knowing that what I do feels good to me, that's really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Being able to look in the mirror, and for whatever creator, whatever higher power that you believe in, if if they see fit to wake you up in the morning, then guess what? That's another opportunity to do a better job. And we owe ourselves that. Something else that I have learned is that um, people aren't always going to be thankful. That it's what we do is not always for everyone, that we have to be confident in ourselves, that we have to build our support system, that we have to build our network, and also be aware of when we need a break. Putting ourselves first when it comes to our health, our mental health in particular, our physical health, absolutely. When my hand hurts, I know I need to go to the doctor. I didn't always know when my mental health was at in jeopardy. And so paying attention, investing in yourself first, putting that mask on yourself, I think is one of the most important things we can do. Learning ourselves also is important. We have the manual. Again, if you believe in a higher power, most people believe that there is a manual that we've been given to live our lives by. Living our lives in accordance with something that's important to us is important, right? Filling our own cup up, and whether that's your meditation, whether that's your prayer, whether it's working out, whatever it is, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And last but not least, I would say staying involved. Always learning. Again, whether it's formalized or whether it's informal, surrounding yourself with good-hearted people, reading a magazine, showing up, attending a meeting. For me, growing, learning continuously what keeps me fueled, because just when I think it's over and I'm tired, I pick up an article or I watch something on the news and it's like, oh, here's another resource that I can tell such and such about. And their reaction, their gratefulness is what fuels me, and then I'm able to go back out there. So in short, one, realizing I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Two, finding my circle, filling myself up, paying attention to my mental and physical health, refueling myself, and knowing that what I'm doing, it matters. That thank you, sometimes that gratitude isn't always going to come in the form that we can see, but know that when we wake up every day, it's an opportunity to do better. And it's okay to have some days where we're not doing as much. So hopefully that resonates with some of your listeners.
I believe it absolutely does. And one of the things that you talked about is just we have to have a way to sustain, and I think that's what makes some people kind of back away from politics and other things. Maybe it could possibly be sometime that we're just not thinking about returning back to some of our basics. We are people that need rest, meditation, um thoughts, meditating on the things that matter to us. And if our communities matter to us, um if advocacy matters to us, sometimes you can be behind the scenes. Everybody doesn't want to be out front. It doesn't take a lot, but it does take us all. When you talk about all of these things, you put them together so eloquently. Um you make it all flow together, and it makes sense. So I certainly see why you are elected. And it's elected from a place of authenticity. You're not trying to sell something. This is something you can tell you believe at your core. So of course I know you, but again, I'm learning something new about you even tonight. Just your belief system and your why, learning about your family, some things that have fueled you early on and what started your advocacy early on. When you think about your life, because now we are, as we both are grandmothers, we have legacies moving around here. And to that word legacy, what would you like your legacy to ultimately be, in this work, in this from a avenue, a place of advocacy work, in your community, showing up, and you show up a lot, in the community. You knock on doors, you're at events, you're on panels, you're on podcasts, including this one. Make sure you all share. So that being said, what do you think? or what would you like anyway for your legacy to be in this work? And I feel like you know this. You know what you want it to be. So I know you just waiting on me to be quiet. But I really want everybody to just really think about what I'm saying, because I know she's already got this set up. And just really listen in, really listen your like in your ear to what she's saying. What do you want your legacy to be regarding this work?
I want, and so the funny thing is, I asked my son the other day, I said, Mackenzie, one of my sons, I said, Mackenzie, will you say at my funeral that I was a nice person? And he said, my 26-year-old, he said, I will say I loved her. And I said, Mackenzie, are you saying that I'm not nice? He's like, I would say I loved you. And I thought about that because one of my mentors always said that there's a difference between nice and being kind. Being nice is telling someone, seeing someone with something on their face, right? And not saying anything because you don't want to embarrass them. Being kind is pulling them aside and telling them so that someone else doesn't, say something or make them feel uncomfortable. And so thinking about that, I want my legacy to be that I was kind and I was transparent and that I lived my life out loud. I used to be nice. Earlier in life, people's feelings, I put them above what was best for them long term. And now I'm at the point in my life where I want to be kind. Example, someone said that they don't do politics. Let's not talk about it. The nice Shawnte would say, you know what? Absolutely, no problem. The kind Shawnte now explains to them why saying that is silly, why and how politics impacts their life. So I want my legacy to be that I was kind, that I helped people, even though it might have been an uncomfortable situation, help them see something that they didn't see before, which will help them transform and be a better person. I want to be seen as someone who lived my life very transparent and someone who lived my life out loud. I said earlier in our discussion that growing up till 18, my life was very cush. I didn't know a lot of bad things in society. I made some decisions in life, and some bad things happened. I've been sexually assaulted. I've been kidnapped. I was in a very bad marriage. My husband at the time was on meth and was physically violent for many, many years. And so I went from that very safe upbringing to being a young parent to entering this very dark stage in my life. And for many years was very embarrassed to share those things, many years too embarrassed to share all of the challenges, and then being diagnosed later in life with also being neurodiverse. Always been an overachiever, but always suffered in silence to get the things done. And with that, mental health struggles and all of those things. And so I stand before you today, someone who is very proud to be transparent in all of that. Where earlier in life that would have been embarrassment, and now it is my shining star to see where I started, to see where I was at a point in my life, and to be able to be invited to be on your amazing podcast, to have the opportunity to share my life story, my journey. It's, I've been told many times it has helped so many people feel not afraid, that it's encouraged them to step out, to apply for roles, to run for office, to share the things that they're struggling with. And so if I can leave this earth helping people to understand all of the little things that make them up are a thing of beauty, all of the scars, all of the hurt, all of the I'm afraid to say I have this or that we're on the spectrum or not, wherever we are in our life, whoever we are, however we come, wake up in the morning, that it's a beautiful thing. And that by sharing who we are and our authentic self showing up every day is helping someone else wake up, and make it through another day. So that is the legacy that I want, that I've helped leave the world a better place than what I found it. And I've helped people love themselves out loud, in their authentic form, if that makes any sense.
That makes so much sense. And as a fellow neurodivergent here, I simply love all the things. I think that when we're younger, sometimes we're ashamed of our voice, but it's just something about getting old and a few
Mm-hmm.
rotations around the sun. I think this generation more than ever is certainly. I used to laugh at the little old ladies, the little Odells and Bernices at church, and
Yeah,
all of the
girl, I
ones
can't.
that as soon as you would start talking to them, and if they thought you were going to say something negative, like, oh no, no, you can move. No,
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm. They would literally cut you off and be like, they so mean. But I've learned that that was really a superpower. They may not have
Mm-hmm.
understood that at the time. They just felt like I'm not the one. But I
Yeah.
truly feel like that is a superpower, knowing who you are. And I think this is something that no matter who you are, we all need to get back to knowing who we are. Because when you know who you are, and you're walking in your truth, you won't fall for anything. You
Mm-hmm.
won't just fall. And I think that what you said about your legacy, knowing that you were kind, knowing that you were willing to do the hard things, really, because it can be hard to be kind, because sometimes that's not going to be reciprocal. Um, you know that you're giving that away, not necessarily expecting something in return. And so pouring into others, I think it's just so important that we do. Advocacy is something so important and that is needed in our community. We still don't have all the things, right? And so as long as we don't have all the things, we got to keep showing up and give me my things. Give
Yes.
me my things. It doesn't matter if you like me or not. You don't have to like me, but you need to respect me. And so
Mm-hmm.
give me my things. You wouldn't want anyone to take something from you. Don't take something from me. And I think as you
Exactly.
get older, you really learn how to harness and put those words together much better than you did when you were younger. You might be a little fast with the mouth a little bit sometimes when you're
Mm-hmm.
younger, but I think you're more clear and concise and more absolute as you age, because you really don't care necessarily if there's a fallout from it, I guess, if you will.
Yes.
I feel like I said what I said. And I said what I needed to say in that moment because I've thought about it once, more than once, and I spoke.
I wrote it down what you said. I looked into it. I thought about it. I dot dot dot. Yep, I got it down.
Yes, I looked into it and I thought about it, and I'm not going to be able to do it. And so I'm very
I'll
known for
use that
that.
when I'm telling you.
They borrow like a cup of sugar,
Yes.
sis. I truly believe that we are in a phase where, yes, we are back to you're trying to silence said voices, of which it's not going to happen. I don't care what you put on paper or policy. We know who we are from our spirit. It didn't work when we was on a ship. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't work when we was on in the field.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't
Mm-hmm.
work on the plantation. It didn't work when they crossed the bridge, the
Mm-hmm.
Edmund Peterson Bridge, and it's not going to work today. And so I don't know why we are still having these conversations because it's just so redundant sometimes. And I think we're all mentally fatigued. But I also think in these process, we also learn who we are as a community, but also you
Yes.
find who you are as an individual. And maybe sometimes some things happen because we need to go back and find our voice. Go back and get what you need for the next level. Because as we see, hate doesn't take a day off. And advocacy also does not take a day off. And so to that, we know we can find you tomorrow in these advocacy streets. But we want to make sure people know how to find Shawnte. Where's Shawnte? How do we find you? Someone wants to book you to speak. Someone wants to continue these conversations. Someone maybe is just thinking about maybe I might be interested in running, or maybe they have a concern about their community and maybe they want to figure out how do they organize. How do individuals find you?
The easiest way to find me, Advocacy Matters is a lot of my handles. That's funny because every time you say it, I'm like, I made the right choice. But educating the number four success at gmail.com is the easiest way. Shawnte, my first name, SHAWNTE, Rothschild at Gmail is also an easy way to find me. Email is the best way. And then, of course, on LinkedIn under my name as well. So I'm part of lots of organizations. If you just type in my name, if you Google it, all of the things come up. But I will tell you, sis, this has been tomorrow's May Day. So I'm doing all of this organization to get people to get out and say enough is enough. So it's been a very crazy day, but this has been the best part of my day. So thank you for this invitation to have this conversation, because really that's what it feels like. It feels like a conversation with a good friend. And I'm going to walk away with this feeling like, you know what? I'm doing a good job. I'm doing this morning, didn't feel
You
like that.
absolutely are.
It did not feel like that, but thank you. Thank you
And
for this.
and you are so welcome. And I want you to know we see you, sis.
Thank you.
I know that we are, again, y'all, we in the valley, and the valley is bigger than y'all will ever know. It is wide open. And so a lot of times the distance between us can seem physically really
Mhm.
far. But when you hear a lot of times our stories, we see that we could have almost walked side by side.
Yes.
And so when you say sometimes that, again, that people say that certain things don't matter, a lot of times we're the same person. We're just
Mhm.
having these different lived experiences in different areas, different communities, or whatever. But we see you, and just know we are proud of you for being one of the few.
Thank you.
Many are called, but the chosen really are few. The few to run, the few to go and get a door slammed in their face, the few to go in a yard and
Hey,
realize there's probably a
real
pit
loud.
bull, right, and a pit bull in the yard. You know, those that are really sitting on these lines and sometimes speaking truth to power when nobody else wants to hear it, and having the emotional intelligence to not get mad, but as Bishop Desmond Tutu once said, don't get mad, improve your argument. You know,
Mhm.
and so you're constantly in these argument slash advocacy streets, improving your argument daily. And to that, communities are positively impacted for it. And
100%.
just know your legacy will certainly be that you were truly kind, because what you're
Thank
doing
you.
is just positively shining a light on certain things in the community, and speaking for those that often just don't have a seat at the table. And you brought your lawn chair and all the fixings,
Yes.
right?
My white folding chair. My white
Yes.
folding chair. Always walking with it. Yes.
Yes, we're bringing that folding chair. And again, we see you, and just know you are inspiring so many others. When
Thank you.
little girls see you, they probably see themselves, because they're probably advocating for this. If they're going to wear their hair a certain way, or they're going to wear this outfit a certain way, or they can't do anything about the way they're shaped. I see these things every single day, watching them advocate. And when I was listening to your story, I think about all the little girls, young girls that I see daily, and know that I can see a future you in them. And
Yes.
so just know,
That means
keep being
everything.
that example, because I promise you, there's some other girls, I promise you they got next. They're coming. If you have loved this conversation, we first of all, we want you to share it. Don't just listen to it for yourself. We want you to share it out. There's probably someone else that needs what was said on this during this interview. You can always find us at www.stilettotalks.com. Of course, this podcast is on all things podcast. If you can, from Pandora to iTunes, we're everywhere. Amazon, we're everywhere. We need you to share out, and we need you to support. The more you support, the more we can keep going and keep getting these words out. So again, thank you, Shawnte, for being here. Love you much.
Thank you for the invite. It has been a privilege. Thank you.